Hi, this is Hart with a cup of tea, just you and me and a craft yet to be. What I'm working on here today is I'm making a birthday card for my youngest daughter. And this paper pack is really just screams her personality and style in paper. Not necessarily her style in person, but in paper. She gets drawn to certain paper packs. And so what I did is I bought this paper pack knowing that I would easily be able to use anything I didn't use in making her birthday card, and thought I would just make a journal or something out of it, or multiple journals out of it, and just started picking what felt good to go together. So the journey we're going to go on today is taking you through, I think it's like 4 times, 8 times, some ridiculous speed, because I really do move slow when I'm making birthday cards. And so I decided what I wanted to put as my focal point, and you can see here that it says happiness within, and that's my focal point on the front of the card. I think it says happiness comes from within, but frankly I can't see it. You probably can see it. If you can't see it, oh, there it is. Blooms from within. That's how it is. It's a little flowery thing, but it took up too much of the card face, so I decided I wanted to trim around the frame, because I don't want the card to be only the paper pack. I still don't know exactly what my end result's going to be, but I'm just trimming it out. And you know, some days I have good fussy cutting days, other days not so much. This particular day was a good fussy cutting page. By the way, my card base just happens to be a file folder. That the file folder is already folded in half in a particular spot, and I used my file folder to make the card size I wanted. And so now you just see me deciding what to do with my focal point here, and I still haven't decided. I just know I like these colors together. And so I wanted the little happiness piece, the pink happiness piece, I wanted it to have something to tuck in behind it, or make it a pocket, or not just be the only piece on the front page. I'm deciding whether or not to make it look like a file folder, and realize, ooh, I can't put the same color on the same color. By the way, it's raining outside. I love the rain. And so if you can hear that and you don't like it, I apologize, and if you do like it, you're welcome. I'm just trimming. You know when you have the pages you like and it has the different pieces, while I'm thinking through it, I'm trimming it out and decide, ooh, look at that. I can take these 2 little booklet looking things and turn it into a booklet, and I just want to make sure I have nice clean edges and they're exactly the same size, and you'll see what I do with them in a second. But at the time that I'm trimming it right here, I had no idea. I just knew I liked it and I wanted all of that. And so I'm just folding it, seeing how I get my book going. Now, just so you know, I have another daughter who loves butterflies, and so the butterfly was not cutting it for once I decide something, I just glue it down. So I decided that is definitely going on the inside of my card. So I glued it down. You can kind of tell that it was a file folder. Not that I don't have enough card bases, it's just that's what I wanted. And so now I'm checking the size here, giving myself little score marks on what I want the front of the card to look like, and trimming that baby out. Oh, my lights just flickered, so it must be a pretty good storm coming in. And this is how I do my card base when my brain isn't giving me exactly what I want. So I'll lay the paper on top and go, how long do I need this to be? Okay, I want a 1/4 inch. All right, that's where it's at. So sometimes, for some reason, I can't deduct a 1/2 inch when I'm measuring things out. And then I make sure it looks good, so it has a nice little teeny frame all the way around my card face. And it does, so it's good now. So I've pretty much decided, and this is how long it takes me, I've pretty much decided the materials that I want to use for the face. And so those are itty bitty flowers, and I've decided to make it like a belly band, just smaller, to tuck in And yeah, I do a lot of tapping when I'm thinking. No, not to the side, it doesn't fit, woman. No, not that way, although that would have been kind of cute. And so I realize I don't like how the edge of my flower has a corner edge because I'm going to use it like a belly band. So I had to take off the leaves because it gave it too much of a line, and I had to get rid of the line. I really should have stuck with it that way. I do kind of like it that way. Did I end up sticking with it that way? You know, I don't even remember. I guess I'll have to find out myself as I go on this journey with you guys, because it's been a long time since I've made this card. I'm just way behind on editing videos. And so this daughter is the daughter that loves birds, and so she actually has a bird of her own. I forget what kind of bird it is, but I really wanted the bird to be on the front side. But as most people think, when you open a book, the thing on the left-hand side is on the back of the book, not on the right of the book. So that kept making the butterfly be the front. So I had to come up with a way to make the bird be the front. And so that's why you see me working with 3 little booklets to make the bird be the front of my book. And that was what my goal was and why I'm thinking with it. And so now I've decided that if I take 3 little booklet folds that are all exactly the same size, which is like an ATC card, 2.5 by 3.5, and I make them all the same size, then I can glue it and get the bird to be the front of my book and make it just a super fold book to be on the front. I think it turned out cute. And you know, my handy dandy glue stick, she's a keeper of cards. That's why you see me use the glue sticks. I think she has a ton of cards over the years. And if you want a nice clean line, then I just lay it over the top, then fold and glue it versus trying to line it up perfectly, because that gives me a good fold, so it's not in the way. So now I'm trying to decide what I want on the blank sides for my interior folds. So if you want to slow this down, you can use YouTube to slow it down, and I hope that it makes sense to you that way. But essentially, I'm not giving you measurements on this process, except to say that these are 2.5 by 3.5s on the card. My card is a 4 by 6 card. And then I think I did a handmade envelope. I really don't remember what kind of envelope I did. But essentially why I'm sharing this particular video is, 1, to remember the card I made because I really liked how it turned out. And 2, it's because, you know, we all tend to make flat cards. I sometimes go in a long series of making flat cards. And this one having little notes and quotes on the inside that tucks out of the top and the front, I like that because it's a big birthday for her. It was the end of her teenage years, and yeah, now she's got a big 0 behind it. You know, any birthday ending in 0 is a really big birthday. She can no longer be called a teenager, and you know, I feel like there should be a song for this. I'm no longer a teenager, and I'm not yet an adult, although a lot of people think they're adults, because yeah, you can do all these great things by 20, but that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? I think somewhere between 20 and 30, depending on who the person is. Some people wait until they're 80 before they're adults, but generally somewhere between 20 and 30, people find their way. They get in their groove, and even though the groove constantly changes, they start to take accountability for their actions. And when a person is fully accountable for their actions, that's when I personally consider them an adult. You know, when they no longer can say, oh, it's blank's fault or somebody else's fault. That's kind of my definition of adult, fully responsible and accountable for their actions and their own personal responsibilities. Anyway, I suppose that was a side topic. All I'm doing right now is I'm using a furniture marker. Yeah, I do this quite often, to get rid of the white interior on the paper and to so you can see the white core on the paper when it's cut, and then I edge it with the furniture marker as well. That way it has a cohesive look around the entire outside. And even though it smears a little bit, I kind of like it. The color scheme and such gives me a little bit of a shabby chic vibe, although I'm not good with all the terminology. Someone's probably going to correct me and say, you know, no, it's vintage, rustic, chic, or whatever the numbers are. You do you. I make up the words that fit. And so all I wanted here was these colors to tie out together, and that darn bird with the gold color to it. I needed that baby on the front, so that's what I did, and I needed a lot of writing space because there's a lot of things I wanted to say, more than what was on the inside of the card. Frankly, I forget all the stuff I put on the inside of the card, but that's what I'm doing. You know, it's funny, I do switch between using stamps or an ink pad, or not stamps, using an ink pad or a marker as what I edge my papers with for that finished look. I don't know that I have a particular preference, it's just what I'm in the mood for. And you'll notice that I used the edge of my cardstock from the file folder scraps to make sure I had a straight line, because on paper it generally doesn't like to fold both ways when it's more than a couple of pages thick on cardstock, and you don't want to tear the paper. And so my only intent there was to just not fold it backwards and forwards to risk tearing it. So I just used my cardstock to line it. And now my lined portion, which was a scrap off of something else, was a little bit too small. So I wanted to add a border on the bottom, and it's nice when something's a little too small because it forces you to add something else. And for me personally, a few layers is better. It is rare for me to do even numbers because I wouldn't consider the background on this one. I wouldn't consider the little flowery background thing that's the purple, which to you might look like polka dots if you're looking at small screen. I wouldn't count it as one thing, so all I have is just the lines to write on, and then the little hearts down at the bottom. And so normally I try to do 3 or 5, but this one looked good based on the stuff it was sitting next to, with the butterfly on the inside and the other little green thing. And so all I'm doing right now, this is not my whole card, this is just me decorating my little quote tuck of my little messages I wanted to give to her, which is funny because I'm not even sure if she knows that I made this little booklet a pop-out. Oh, isn't this a cheater way to do it without cutting and at 45-degree angles on the corner for the frame, just trimming it and layering it over the top? You know, some people used to do their doorways that way. You know, and that's why they have those little squares, and so you could have the rectangles and the squares and the old-fashioned doorways. I think that looked cool. I don't know. I'm clearly on some kind of a tangent today. All kinds of side topics, but it does look good with the little frame. It seems to go from smaller to 2 equal size frames in the middle, and then it seems to be a little bit bigger on the right. At least that's my perspective. And so I like the scale of how the inside of this is coming out. And that piece right there is just file folder, I think. I'm pretty sure it's just file folder scraps. And the little green thing is also just scraps from the stuff I was cutting, but it, you know, if you're working with scraps, then you know it ties in with the color scheme that you're working on. So that works out nicely. So I decided not to do the frame all the way around, and I did it just a band on the left-hand side, as you can see there. And so my birdie's on the front, and I'm still deciding which way I want it. If I'm smart, I open up the envelope and I see, oh wait, you can't have it both ways. That's why I didn't do it this way. I do love how this looks, but if you open up the card and you see that it's landscape, I would never want portrait on the front and then landscape on the inside. So I do change it as soon as I open it up and go, oh, that's right, I did it that way. So that was my logic. I do remember that now. See? I'm like, oh, landscape. Okay, now the decision's made. Which way? This way? Yep, almost done. So now that I'm almost done with this card, I do want to use double-sided stick tape because I can tell that my my little booklet on the inside, once I write what I want to write and it gets opened a few times, it's going to take some extra space, and I don't want it accidentally pulling off the card. So I use score tape as my favorite double-sided stick tape. Sometimes I don't buy that, I'll be honest, but most of the time that's the brand I buy. No, they don't pay me to say that, it's just what I happen to use when people ask me. This paper pad I purchased at either Michael's or Hobby Lobby, and I don't recall that either, but I know that I've shared that particular paper pad on other videos I've already released. And so now I'm trying to line it up to see where I want to put it down, and ding, it's easier if the little booklet's already on the inside, because that makes sure that I don't lay it so flat the booklet doesn't fit in. So now I'm going to be attaching my card face to the card base, and I like to get a nice clean edge on this, and you'll notice that my my purple is drying so darn fast that I feel rushed to get that down on the purple glue. It's just Elmer's glue. And ding, my card is done. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.